Ladies, please welcome Denise Garrido.
I feel like I have to do a taekwondo demonstration after that. Like, I feel like I have to prove myself. Who wants to see a kick actually in heels? I don't know if that's really fair. No. Yeah? Okay, fine. I'll just do, oh man, if I fall, it's not my fault. You pressured me, okay? Are you ready? Ready? And 1, and 2. Not too bad in heels, I say. All right. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Woo! Very good energy this morning. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my story. So let us begin. On May 25th, 2013, actually about a year ago, I won the title that I dreamt of as a little girl, and that was the title of Miss Universe Canada. Getting to that point took a lot of training. It took me months. Actually, technically, it took me years because I had actually competed in other pageants as a way of building skill and experience to be as most prepared as possible to get to Miss Universe Canada. My training is actually very similar to athletic training. I had a coach for the physical training, and I had a coach for mental training. And my coach, there's the photo. That's my 24-hour victory right there. Woo! So it was a 24-hour victory, thank you. So my mental coach, her name was Terry Hawkins, and she's actually a former Olympian and All-American athlete. And so during the time that I was working with her, she told me, she always reiterated this one phrase, that you will win that night being you, and even if you don't win that night, you still win being you. Okay, so I want you to think about that again. I'm going to say it again. You're going to win being you, and even if you don't win, you still win being you. And really this applies to anything in life, not even just a pageant. So at the time, I thought it would just be, okay, competition night. Once it's over, everything that I learned goes out the window. Really, that mental training that she trained me for was gonna be needed in everything I would face afterwards. So who here in the audience is a dancer? Can I have the next slide? Oh, we got a couple dancers, awesome. Anyone here dance competitively? Yeah? Anyone want to dance professionally, like become a professional dancer later on in life? Awesome, wow, very, very great. So I want you all to visualize with me. Imagine that you're a ballerina. You've been training for years, and you're waiting for the big call. You go to an audition for a major production. A week later, after the audition, you get the call that you've been selected as the lead for the Nutcracker. So, oh my gosh, you're the lead for the Nutcracker. You are set for life. Your family's rejoicing. Your friends are all like so excited. And then shortly after that, you get a call back. And then they say they actually wanted to go another direction. They weren't really feeling you anymore. So the lead was going to someone else. And like you worked so hard for this moment. Can we go to the next slide? And now who here likes hockey? Any hockey players in the audience? Yeah? Woo, awesome. Anyone do it as a recreational sport, or anyone who wants to do it professionally? Any professional, like ambitious, oh beautiful, I see right there in the back. So imagine, you are on those skates since you're at the age of 2, you live, you breathe hockey. Your goal in life is to get up from the minors and to become a major league player. And one day you get the call that, oh, you're gonna be playing for the Maple Leafs. Sweet, I'm finally there, I have made it. But then you end up playing, just sitting on the bench for the whole season. So you technically made it, but you're on the bench the whole season, you don't even get to play. So in either of those situations, or any situation similar to that, how would you feel? Yeah, like disappointed, like you worked so hard, you did everything right, but it was the circumstance afterwards that took it away. So it could be very, very devastating. Can I just go back to the next slide? Perfect. So for myself, I had finally attained the crown of Miss Universe Canada, and it was like the final title, the one that I had always hoped for since I was a little girl, and I had it. And then 24 hours later, I go into a meeting, and they sit me down and they tell me, we were really happy, but we actually had a reevaluation of the top 5, and everyone was jumbled, and you're actually not the winner. And so, yeah, you're gonna have to give us back the crown and the sash. And I was like, stabbed to the heart, you know, you trained so hard for this moment, and then after a day, like, you're still in like la la land because you just had like this huge announcement, and then it's no longer yours. So for me, that was my opportunity to really sink my heels into the ground and to find a new meaning and purpose, because I couldn't change the circumstance. You cannot change the cards you're dealt. This is what I was dealt, okay. But you could, what you have control of is how you play those cards. So all I had control over was how I was going to face that situation and how I was going to grow and become a stronger person because of it. It is adversity that creates the potential to grow into something greater than you could have ever had imagined. If you could find meaning in that tough time, if you could pull up your socks and find the strength, push even harder than ever before, and pass that threshold, a hero will emerge. Next slide. Does anyone know who this man is? Nelson Mandela, yeah, it's kind of, his name's in there too, but you know, he is a leader, a legacy to the world. Nelson Mandela was put into jail for 27 years, and not even for a legitimate excuse, really, like he was just put in jail. And 27 years, you're in jail for practically no reason, just for standing up for what you believed in. And how many of us, if you were just thrown in jail, would have kind of given up? Like, one day in jail, I probably would have gone crazy. And so 27 years, like, either you're gonna give up on life, or you have to really develop a sense of peace in yourself. And so Nelson Mandela chose the latter. Every single day he forged through, he had to find a new meaning in his life. He developed a sense of peace and a greater vision for South Africa. So when he left that jail cell 27 years later, he left not with hate and anger towards the people that put him in jail, but rather with a fire and passion to change his country. And he did that. His passion was so contagious, everyone else caught on, and everyone wanted to be with Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela, Nelson Mandela. People made songs for Nelson Mandela. And he united South Africa. This vision and all this discrimination, he was able to slowly, you know, and he had a lot of adversity, but slowly he was able to change perspectives. And he changed the face of the country forever. And now he is a legacy to the world, and he's touched so many people's lives. They say that the finest wine, who here drinks wine? I don't know, you're kind of young for wine. Maybe your mom or dad, but they say that the finest wine, over there, the finest wine comes from grapes that grow under the harshest conditions. So the grapes under the hardest stress are going to be the ones that produce the finest wine. So we're very similar to that. People that are able to push through adversity, that are able to face a challenge head on and grow from it, become this like hero, this incredible person. And otherwise, if you didn't have something that you had to face, you would have it's easier to kind of just get too relaxed. But when you're faced with adversity, and if you're able to use that to really push forward, you become something incredible. Can I skip 2 slides over? Perfect. Okay, so for myself, I lost my crown 48 hours later. Moments after I lost the crown, they made a public announcement, and all of a sudden, the phone started ringing. The phone started ringing. Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. Ring, ring, ring. Facebook, Twitter, email. They were calling my hairdresser back home trying to get a hold of me. It was crazy. Pretty much it was 1 week of no sleep as media was trying to get a hold of me to get the juicy story. I had CNN, People Magazine, National Post, media from Slovakia, media from Portugal, media from Australia, and this is just to name a few. And all of them were contacting me, asking me, what happened? What happened? What is the story? Next, I just have a few little clips of some of the media introductions to the story, to the scandal.
Miss Universe Canada 2013. But Denise Garrido's run as Miss Universe Canada lasted exactly 1 day.
24 hours later, the tiara was snatched away.
Kind of scandal now, this one involving a beauty pageant.
I couldn't believe that it happened.
Neither can Denise. After having her dreams come true of winning the 2013 title of Miss Universe Canada, one call changes everything.
Wait a minute. That thrill didn't last very long. Within 24 hours, the pageant came back and basically said, oops.
Some of them were just kind of funny to watch afterwards. Oops. But you know what? They were looking for the big juicy story, and the kinds of questions that they were asking me were, so what exactly happened? Who was involved? Is there a little bit of money under the table? Are you going to sue them? And I mean, holy cow, like for me, that was all extreme measures. But for myself, I already knew that what happened to me, it happened for a reason. I kind of believe in destiny. And this was part of my path. So anyhow, the story I gave them may have not been exactly what they expected. We'll just see a couple of examples. I would like to congratulate Riza on being Miss Universe Canada 2013. So we were both a Miss Earth Canada, we were both a Miss World Canada, and technically we both have shared in this Miss Universe Canada experience, and I am happy to pass it over to you now.
Denise Garrido, Riza Santos, both of you Miss Universe Canada for one a day and one for the rest of the year. Nice to meet both of you, and thank you. Great role models.
And both champions of grace and poise in their own way. I'm just really in awe of how they handled it. Very, very impressive.
This was a blessing in disguise.
You are very, very gracious. And between the two of you, I know you've been on the talk show circuit.
There's always a greater purpose for everything, and I was supposed to go through this experience for a reason.
I've heard through some of the media that I've spoken to and through the director that you have been so gracious through the entire process, and I thank you so much for your message right now.
Oh, that's the best story ever. How good's that story? Can we replay that?
Told you there were some kind of funny articles, some funny stories, but that's what happened. They were hoping for this big, juicy, angry story, and it was a bit of a different take from what was expected. There was actually one reporter, it was kind of funny. So he starts in, he's like, so exactly, what happened? And I was just like, well, the day after they did a validation and, you know, the top 5 were jumbled, I didn't have the crown anymore. And then he continued on. And my answers weren't filled with that, like, emotion and anger. So by the end of the interview, he was just like, is there anything else that you want to say? Like, he was so bored with me. It was just not the kind of story he was expecting. But I mean, you could choose to be the victim in your own life. You know, everything happens. Like, we all face challenges, adversity, but it's all about choices we make. You could either be a victim, or you could choose to be the hero in your own story. So, we have choices. What are the 2 choices that you could be in your own life? You could either be a victim, or you could be a perfect. So it's all about choice, and it's all about, do you want to be angry and then your life stops, or do you want to find a meaning and a purpose and push through and be even better than before? That's how heroes are made. Woo! All right, let me see where I'm at. Perfect. So my coach Terry, my mental coach for the pageant, had told me the same thing, and she constantly reiterated that to me as well, was that you are so lucky right now. This is the best hurdle that you could ever have to face, because you're going to be so strong because of this. It wasn't even anything about like, oh, poor you. It was more like, awesome, now take it head on and now see what you're going to become because of the situation. It was all about the opportunity behind that disappointment at the time. And technically, because of everything that happened, I still am technically the first in Canadian history to have won the 3 Grand Slam titles. I mean, one I only had for 24 hours, but technically, I was the first to win all 3 titles. I was Miss Earth Canada 2008, Miss World Canada 2010, and Miss Universe Canada 2013. 24 sweet hours, but I still was able to attain it. So I lived that dream, even though just for a day. And because of that experience, I now am involved in these pageants and these organizations. And I'm now like a mentor, and I'm a coach for a lot of the contestants now competing going forward. I get to host for a lot of their events. I'm able to travel internationally to share my story. And just as was mentioned in my bio, I was recently this year declared like the North American Peace Ambassador for Hwachon, South Korea. So that is a huge honor for me because yeah, it's pretty awesome. You know, it's a selection done by the United Nations ambassador, so that's a huge, huge honor. And I mean, I wouldn't have the same platform if life was perfect. It's when you have to face adversity and push through that you're really able to find a stronger purpose for your own life. Okay, so I want you all to think about a moment in your life when you faced a tragedy, or you finally won something and then they took it away, or you almost got something and you almost reached a goal, but something happened that was out of your control and it then was no longer yours. And we've all faced it. So just think about it right now. I just want you to think for yourselves. And then, after a few moments, I want you to think of the silver lining, because it could be really upsetting at the time and really devastating, but that is your opportunity for growth. So where is the silver lining? What was like this little gold mine that was hidden behind that? Where was that little pot of gold? That it was actually this opportunity for you to really have to sink your heels in the ground and be like, okay, I've got to figure this out. I've got to be even stronger because I'm meant to be greater than this. Just think and just start reframing any situation that you've ever had before that was a disappointment, but it was actually this great opportunity for you to grow and to be even better than you ever were before. Next slide. Has anyone seen this movie? It's kind of an old film. It's called Field of Dreams. Oh, sweet. High five, air high five. It's a very inspiring film. Next slide. So there's a particular moment in this film that I really resonate with. So over here on the left-hand side, you got this man, Ray Kinsella, who's talking to this former baseball player, Doc Graham. Doc means doctor, but he actually used to be a former baseball player. He played for the minors, so the minor teams. And his dream was to play for the big leagues. So one day he gets the call that he's gonna get to play for one of the major league teams. He had his moment, he finally got to play. Like this was his dream come true. So he goes out onto the field that day. He goes out to play, and well, first he's out in the field. He never gets to actually have a ball thrown at him, so he doesn't really get to do anything. And before he knew it, the game was over. He didn't even get to go up to bat. So that's it. Well, he thought that maybe there would have been another day, but actually the next day they actually sent him back to the minors. So he was done. He was just like, what's the point? I worked so hard to finally get to the major league, and they've sent me right back to the minors. I didn't even get to play. And he was so devastated that he ended up becoming a doctor instead. He gave up baseball completely. So can you just click the next? So then they have this little conversation just talking about that experience. So you can read along with me. So this is Doc talking to Ray. It was like coming this close to your dreams and then watch them brush past you like a stranger in a crowd. At the time, you don't think much of it. You know, we just don't recognize the most significant moment of our lives while they're happening. Back then I thought, well, there'll be other days. I didn't realize that was the only day. Ray replies, 50 years ago, for 5 minutes, you came within. You came this close. It would kill some men to get so close to their dream and not touch it. God, they'd consider it a tragedy. But Doc replied, son, if I'd only gotten to be a doctor for 5 minutes, now that would have been a tragedy. So Doc, even though he didn't live out his dream of being a Major League Baseball player, he lived out his destiny of being a doctor. He lived out his destiny of saving so many people's lives. And if he didn't live out that destiny, that would have been a tragedy. And that applies to our lives, that sometimes we don't attain the dream that we think is supposed to be our dream so that we could go and live out our destiny. Attaining my dream of winning the crown and then losing it was part of my own journey. With every storm cloud, there is a silver lining. So with my story, I found a silver lining. I was able to win by being me, and I didn't win, but I still won being me because I was authentic to myself. I found my destiny in that process. So don't let adversity stand in your way of reaching for your destiny. What is your silver lining? What is it? Thank you.